Yavapai Broadcasting and the City of Cottonwood proudly present Inside Cottonwood, an inside look at the decisions and issues of the City of Cottonwood. Brought to you by Arizona Smile Designers.
Welcome to Inside Cottonwood. I'm Mayor Diane Jones, your host, and we have very special guests today on Inside Cottonwood. They are Barbara Uran, who is the superintendent of Cottonwood Oak Creek School District.
Oh, thank you
Welcome.
for having me. Thank you.
And Dr. Paul Ty, who is the brand new superintendent at Mingus Union High School this year, and already hit the ground running and ready to conquer and do everything he can to provide a great education to the students of our community.
Happy to be here. The treadmill's going at full speed already.
I can imagine. I can imagine. Well, we're here today to talk about something called the override continuation election. And we want to help the public understand the facts, what it is and what it means. And so we've got about a half an hour here today to learn about the facts of an override election. And our community, this is not foreign to our community. We've passed these elections for the past 20 years, as I understand it. So it's something that our community has been behind its kids. As the mayor of Cottonwood, I always say we support our children. And that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. I feel that our citizens care very much about our kids, and so we're going to learn today just the facts about the override. So first of all, either one of you, what is an override? What does that mean?
Well, thank you. Do you want me?
Go for it.
Thank you. An override is a mechanism that the state allows school districts to request from their community to exceed the limits on their budgets. We are given a budget. We cannot exceed that budget. However, we can go to our community and ask for 10%, 15% increase that is actually taxed to the community to help offset and provide other programs for students. So an override is something that majority of the districts in the state of Arizona do ask their communities for. Our governing boards met together as a group and had the discussion on, as we continue this override, because we have to go out every 5 years. 5 years, okay. That what happens, you have a 7-year override, but the funding mechanism starts decreasing after the 5th year. So that decreases in the 5th year, 6th year, by the 7th year, it is gone. So we go out early enough so that we do not have a decrease in that funding. Our governing boards met on that and determined that they would ask for a continuation of the 10% and not ask for a 15%. They felt that the community has always been supportive of the programs for students and wanted to honor that and maintain what we have but not ask for additional funds at this time. So again, an override is a mechanism that we're allowed to go out to our community and ask for an increase to our budgets.
So there's a misconception that the local taxpayers really set how much schools can spend. It's set by the legislature. So the override is a local mechanism that allows you to, in essence, override what the legislature has set as a cap in spending. It
gives people local control.
It does.
If they feel that their children don't get enough from the state legislature, there's so many programs that overrides provide, then the local community can say, I want my children to have band, I want my children to have these other programs that the state would not furnish.
It does. Right. The state funding is very limited, and I'll have Dr. Ty talk on that a little bit later too. But the state funding is very limited, and in that funding, school districts have the bare essentials to offer the core curriculum that students need, the reading, the math, the sciences, social studies. But our budget is 85 to 90% spent on salaries and benefits for the services that we provide. So there's very little in there to provide anything else.
So salaries and benefits for teachers, and we all know that teachers are not the highest paid employees in the community.
No, they're not.
And yet they probably do the most wonderful things for people and children in our community and are underappreciated very often.
Yes, they are.
Oftentimes, even with all these state funding cuts and all of that, teachers go out and they dig in their own pockets to provide paper and colors and scissors and things for their children. Yes, yes.
They estimate that a teacher spends about $500 at the beginning of the year, just at the beginning of the year, to get their classroom ready out of their own pocket.
So those are things that, you know, I think the public needs to know, that there's quite a sacrifice there, you know, that teachers make to ensure that their students have whatever they can afford to give them themselves, to add to what the public supports.
That's
so
very true.
the public's support in these times with the economy the way it was, it just doesn't quite stretch, and with the state reducing funds. And we'll get into how much has been reduced. We've talked about the 10%, so they could the boards could ask for 15%.
Yes, they could.
But they decided together to ask for 10, and this is simply a continuation of what is.
It's not a new tax.
It's not
already
an
in the tax
increase.
rate. It's not an increase. It's just a continuation.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And we've been very fortunate. There's been great support from both the city and the community at large. Mingus has had the override in effect since 1985 and Cottonwood Oak Creek since 1993. So these have been around a long time.
Absolutely. Yeah, 1985, that'd be about 27, 28 years.
Close to
so
30 years.
longer than
Yes.
20.
Yeah, yeah.
Not longer than the 20 that I had read about. Okay, so why do schools need these funds?
Well, you know, you mentioned, if you don't mind.
No, please.
A few minutes ago about some of the state cuts, and unfortunately some research was done on that. The Center for Budget and Policy something or other had done a study very recently, and they found that Arizona unfortunately led the nation in cuts to education over the last 5 years at about 22%. So, you know, both my district, Barbara's district, kind of looked at, well, what did that mean to us locally?
Mm-hmm.
And it was actually kind of staggering. We looked at it and found that it was, about $3.1 million in cuts on your budget?
Yes.
So
You know, it was,
I think we were closer to a 6. Let me check
I'm
on
sorry,
that.
you
Yes.
were at 6 million, and
6
we were
million.
at, and
Yes.
yeah, they were just under 6 million. We were just over 3 million,
Yes.
and so
Those
you know,
were the cuts to your
Yeah.
budget?
in
6
total
million?
over the last 6 years. So those are
That's
cuts that we've
huge.
absorbed.
I
over
mean,
the last-
because your budget this year is 6.
my budget's just under 7 million, so you know, 6.
It's taking 6 million away. Yeah, so
there's a
it's
lot
been
of-
halved in the past 6 years, your
Yeah.
budget essentially.
And you know, both districts, I believe, have been very diligent in doing more with less.
Absolutely.
And, but it just means the urgency now. An override we've already depended on, and means more now after we've absorbed all those cuts already.
Mm-hmm.
So it's tough times in education for sure.
You know, with those cuts, both districts have tried to cut everything except for hitting the classroom and programs for students. So really, any layer that is in there, any efficiencies that could be located, any sharing of services, which Mingus and COCSD have started sharing some of those services as well. They've been looked at, analyzed, revamped, restructured, and it's been a real painful process in that. There's been a lot of great learning opportunities of how we could do things better and more efficiently while still maintaining great education for our students. But it's very important for both of us to make sure that we are offering a full spectrum of choices for our children and opportunities for our children to learn, explore, and go into careers that are going to prepare them to take over the 21st century, problems that we don't even know exist yet, that they'll be ready to do.
That's what people say, is that there isn't even job training right now for the jobs that we'll have in 5 years.
Right.
You know, I mean, the world is just
changing.
It's an
expanding.
exciting
The
time.
information and knowledge is expanding, and the
It-
internet has changed so many things.
And what we're finding with that more is being asked of our students, and the tools that our students need to succeed, the technology, making sure that we have current technology to meet their needs, making sure our teachers know how to utilize that technology instructionally. So those are all things that also the override provides for our districts.
Mm-hmm. So both districts have done many painful cuts, and you know, I know that even trying to repair buses sometimes is almost beyond a budget's capability with current times. And
correct, and a lot of the funding that has been cut was capital funding. So the override's maintenance and operations, but a lot of the things that we've put off have been bus maintenance, bus replacements. The business manager for Cottonwood Oak Creek yesterday was telling me about a roof leak that, you know, there's no funds to repair the roof, but it's leaking, and you know, we've had a lot of rain, and so those are the kinds of things: carpet, furniture, textbooks, technology.
Telephones.
Yeah, our telephone system is antiquated.
In the dark ages, huh? So there's just really a lot of needs, and we've talked about the state funding covers the core programs, so there's still inadequate funds for programs that are proven to engage, motivate, and support students' unique learning needs. So, okay, let's talk a little bit about how much will it cost a taxpayer. They're already paying it now. That's not going to change.
Right.
But what is the cost to a taxpayer per month for each district?
My quick analogy, and then Paul can go into some more detail. It's like going and getting a latte, a venti latte, for both districts, if you come by a month. So if you're going to go out and get a venti latte, you can support programs at the schools. So for Cottonwood Oak Creek School District, it's about $3.58, and
Mingus, it's $1.92.
$1.92
on a $100,000 assessed home.
A home. So that's a pretty small amount when you compare it to going out for a coffee or a latte, or yeah, it's reasonable, and it does so much.
It does.
I mean, you know, that amount, I figured out it was $5.50 for the two districts per month.
That's correct.
And that does so much to bring programs to our children. So let's talk about what kind of programs. Well, let's take a break. I'm running over as usual because I get so interested in my guest and what we're talking about. But we're going to pause right now and hear a message from our sponsors. Welcome back to Inside Cottonwood. I'm Mayor Diane Jones, your host, and we have our guests, Barbara Uran and Paul Ty, with us today. And we're talking about what is an override continuation election. So we were just getting into, before the break, talking about what do override elections provide our children and our youth? What do they do for us in our community?
That's the exciting part to talk about for me.
Right.
I know for both of us it is. But let's talk a little bit about some of those programs that we are able to offer. If we go back earlier, we were talking about some of the cuts that we've had. And just historically, Cottonwood Oak Creek School District has always had certified nurses at all of our campuses. We've had counselors at our campuses. When we started facing so many of the reductions in our budget, we had to start reducing. We no longer have certified nurses at all of our campuses, but we do have a certified nurse, district nurse, who oversees health aides. That salary, part of that salary is maintained by the override. We now have 1.5 counselors working with 2,100 students. Again, that is maintained by override funds. We have alternative learning programs. We have 3 programs for children who are really struggling with some behavior needs, some real high needs, and we're providing some supplemental supports in an alternative program for our junior high students and some of our earliest, youngest learners who have some severe, unique needs that we service. We provide interventions for our students. It's interesting that we live in a great community. However, our schools serve a large percentage of low-income children. Families are struggling in our community.
Right.
So our district has approximately 73% of our families that are considered in the poverty level. That means that oftentimes our children come to us at that young age without the rich experiences that some of our other children get. So we need to help them kind of catch up and get back on board of where the other kids are. Those intervention programs are helped, we provide those through funding from our override. We have, we're able to offer PE, music, art. Those are provided by the override funds. So that full spectrum of wonderful things for children, override funds help us support. We get about $1 million from the override added to our budget. From that $1 million, we are able to provide a more comprehensive program to meet the needs of our children. So without those dollars, those programs would be eliminated. Just very quickly, years ago, the state used to fund full-day kindergarten. They took that funding away from us. That's one of the chunks of money they took away from us. We offer an extended day program, so our kids in kindergarten are with us all day. And again, override dollars help us provide that program for our children. So the sports, the PE, the athletics, the student interventions are some of the things that our district does. Paul's district does some great things over
That
there.
sounds like you're getting a lot of bang for the buck, as the term goes, for the override funds. You do a lot with that money.
We absolutely do.
To increase a child's education and give them more tools to cope with the real world.
Really important, because none of that money goes into any administration. That is all geared to children. It is all student driven. So thank you for bringing that up.
That's a very good point. And Dr. Ty?
We have very similar offerings, just bigger kids.
Right.
The override provides us about $600,000 a year, and with that, we have been able to maintain what I would say is reasonable class sizes for Arizona. They're small. They're still big compared to other parts of the country, but that is a factor as well as the class sizes we've been able to maintain through the override. We have an alternative program for our struggling learners, as well as interventions for those who need extra academic support. We have a tremendous fine arts department.
Oh, you do. The theaters that and the plays they present to the community are just wonderful.
Yeah, and we're well known for that, and we couldn't do that without the override. We have a very strong athletics program, and a lot of the community comes out, loves to watch football games, things like that. Our athletics are supported directly by the override.
That's interesting.
One thing that's also to note on that is the research is very clear that when we offer these kinds of programs for students, it helps keep students engaged, and kids that are engaged in their schools academically do better, so their achievement is better. So these are not frivolous programs. These are programs, whether it's sports, whether it's intervention programs, whether it's the band, whether it's art, whatever it is, those are things that grab students and keep them actively involved in
and
their
keep
schools.
their interest so that they want to complete school, and
it makes a difference. And we're nearing the end of their public school academic career and preparing them for college and career readiness. They their exposure to many of the fine arts, the elective courses we're able to offer through the override, if they don't have that, they might miss out on opportunities that would be future careers for them, as well as scholarships. Not having the ability to tap their fine talents and showcase it. You know, colleges give them scholarships for that.
Absolutely.
And it you know, makes a difference. You know, especially when we're talking about high school dropout rates being very high in Arizona. Sometimes those are the hooks that keep kids engaged with school, and you need that.
We were talking during the break about Arizona being 48th in per pupil. Is it per pupil funding?
Yeah,
Is that how you?
it's 48th by two different measures. If you look at per
Okay.
pupil funding or in money spent on education, you know, there's
Okay.
different groups look at it differently. In both ways, we come up at 48th,
Wow.
and we come up at about 73.6% of the national average. So we spend, you know, less than 75 cents on the dollar compared to the average across the U.S.
Two states are below us.
Yeah,
There's two
and
states below
and
us.
it hasn't always been that way.
No, it
Back
hasn't.
like in the,
That's-
was it 1970?
It was
we were
1970.
in the, you know, middle of the pack, and,
We were
29.
29.
Yes.
and it's been
So-
a steady decline.
We seem to be going the wrong way.
Exactly. So I think going into our second break, you are truly doing more with a lot less, and need to be commended for your efforts. It's very commendable to think about how much your budgets have been reduced in the past 6 years and what you're doing. And this override funding just really, I mean, it's still, you're still in pretty dire straits, even with that funding, of trying to furnish the services that you need to our children. But that takes a little of the pressure off and provides so much. Because this is about our children. This isn't about us. It's about an education for our children so that they can go out into the world and find a good job and be ready to find jobs, to go to school, to college, and to be successful.
That's correct.
So a latte every month is really not much to ask for all the services that are provided for that sacrifice on a taxpayer's part, really, because paying taxes is difficult too. But this is really what it provides, takes such a small amount from we taxpayers. So, okay, time for a break. We'll be right back in just a minute.
Having a fire escape plan is very important to keep your family safe and together in the event of a fire. When you awake to the sound of a smoke detector and smoke in your room, don't stand straight up. Carefully roll off your bed and stay low under the smoke. If your door is shut, feel the door with the back of your hand. Slowly open the door if no heat is felt. Always stay low until you get to the outside of your home. Always have 2 ways out of your house and a specified meeting place somewhere outside your home. Home escape plans should be drawn up and rehearsed on a regular basis. This could be the difference between life and death if caught in a fire.
Welcome to Inside Cottonwood. We're back from our break, and we're talking with Dr. Paul Todd and Superintendent Barbara Uran about the override election that will be coming up November 5th.
That's correct.
But the
it'll
ballots
actually-
will go out, the
the-
mail-in ballots.
The week of October 14th, the
The week
county
of
will be
October
mailing them
14th.
to all registered voters. So the
Okay.
last day to register to vote, which is important, is October 7th. So
Okay.
if people aren't registered, they can still do so through October 7th and participate in this election.
And
this,
you-
this is an all mail-in ballot, so
For
it will
both
not,
schools.
Yes, and they
Yes.
will
Okay.
have they'll be asked 2 questions. And the question is the budget override continuation, yes,
Okay.
or budget continue override, no. So there'll be a question for Mingus Union High School District and a question for Cottonwood Oak Creek School District.
Okay, and those are the only 2 things on the ballot.
Yes,
Okay, so there won't be a lot of confusion or other information.
there
It's
should
just
not be.
this issue itself. And to register to vote, you can do that online through the Secretary of State's office,
We have forms at
yes, we
both
do.
of the
There's
schools,
forms at
district
both of the
offices.
schools, so just drop in at the office at one of the schools and pick up your voter registration form, or you can go to the post office, I believe, or
County building
county
on 6th
building.
Street.
The
yes.
county building, I believe the city has forms that you can register to vote, so it doesn't have to be difficult, and it can be done online. It's very simple.
And Mayor, one of the things also, Dr. Ty and I are very interested in getting the information out, because we find that when people have that information, they can make better decisions from that.
Absolutely.
So we're always willing to come out to any organization or any group or neighborhood.
That's a good point.
And visit and give the facts. And they can contact us at our school districts. I think we have that information on this show, but we're always more than willing to come out, and we don't take much time. We're pretty quick.
I noticed that you're giving out your email addresses, your personal school email addresses to the public. They can contact you directly or call either of you. So it's anybody that has a question, we want to answer those questions.
Correct.
Absolutely.
And make sure that they get their information so they can make an informed vote on this issue. So the hardest part to talk about, and we just have about 3 or 4 more minutes here, is what happens if overrides aren't continued? What kind of impact is that going to have on both of your schools? Dr. Ty?
It'll be quite frankly devastating. As we've outlined, the cuts we've already absorbed have meant there's, it's not even about talking about fat on the budget. It's, we've already cut into programs and staff, and, doing further damage would be bad for our kids. And it does have an impact on the local economy. It would hurt the city's efforts to attract businesses and limit the opportunities for our kids, both with extracurriculars, extra support, and elective courses, athletics, some of the nursing stuff that Barbara outlined. Those things, class sizes, we'd have larger class sizes, which make it harder on teachers to individualize learning and give kids assistance as they need it. So it would be tough, very tough.
I will echo exactly what he said. And again, I just want the community also to know that we don't sit idle. And when I say that, I mean we are always, again, looking for ways to make things better. When we talk about the cuts that we have taken, when I say there's been some great things from that. The city and Cottonwood Oak Creek School District share a PE position.
Absolutely.
So we managed to save some funds and still provide some great programming for our children at Oak Creek School and the Recreation Center by that shared position.
That's been a great
We share
partnership.
several administrative positions between our districts, and we also have shared positions with other districts.
Yes.
And the city collaborates with the officer, it's not the DARE
Yes,
officer.
it's
It's a school safety
School
officer.
safety
For both-
officer,
for both
SRO.
districts, for both districts.
Yes.
So again, we continue to have these conversations. We meet on a regular basis. We meet with the Verde Valley superintendents, always having that discussion on how can we do things better for kids and with greater efficiencies for our taxpayers. We are very fortunate to live in a community that supports education, and we don't take that lightly, and we want to make sure that we are providing the most we can on the dollars that we have for the children in our community.
Absolutely. I understand that. So technology for college and career
yes.
preparation, that's something that could be impacted. I mean, there's just so much. It's really hard to cover it. You've talked about nursing and counseling, increase in class size. So I think we've pretty much covered this. Electives, music, art, drama, PE, athletics, and just having art in a school. Can you imagine a school with no art?
I know I can't.
Or a community with no art. I mean, art is just adds to a quality of life.
And it is these are languages. It is there's art literacy, there's
Expression
music literacy. This is where our history comes from. So these are talents and skills we want to continue to
And we have
cultivate.
some very talented young ladies and gentlemen. There's some very fine artwork that we've been recognized for, and it starts with the feeders from the elementary schools having programs, and then the high school, the talents really shine, and
And again, we're anxious to get these things out to our community so our community can see what we're doing. So again, I would encourage the community, if you want our students to come and perform for you, to demonstrate to you,
Absolutely.
we'll send them out. Or we have open door visits. We take groups through our schools and let them see the things that are happening. They're not scary places. They're wonderful places with great kids.
Right, and you're going to be coming to a Cottonwood City Council meeting October 1st, I think it is, the first meeting in October, and bringing your student council representatives from several of your schools. And you're participating in iCivics this year, which is the Sandra Day O'Connor project, and it's no cost to the schools. So
That's right.
There's lots of ways that you find to do things for free, even,
Right.
and you take those opportunities and help our children with them. So we have about 30 seconds apiece, and I'll let you each add anything that I may have forgotten to ask, or just kind of wrap it up. And
I just want to express again appreciation on behalf of the school board and the kids, really, the students. I know appreciate the opportunities they have, and we've been afforded great support from the community and from the city, and it's much appreciated.
thank you.
I will go with that. We do appreciate everything that this community does for kids in our area.
And to just kind of say right back to you that we appreciate as community members what you do for our children. You are with our children all day long, and we're with our children in the evenings, basically, and on weekends. I mean, you impact their lives so greatly, and you help them become good people, people that will be part of our community and serve our community and raise families. And so it's good stuff that schools do, and you are definitely appreciated. Each of you and each teacher and each support staff member, you are all appreciated by our community.
Well, thank you.
Thank
And
you.
it does take that village. It's not in isolation.
Absolutely, it takes a community. So thank you both for being here today. If anyone from our audience, our television audience, would like Dr. Ty or Superintendent Uran to come and visit with you in your neighborhood, or at your coffee, or at your organization's event, they would be glad to come and talk with you and help you understand what this means to our community. With that, we'll close, and we will be back with Inside Cottonwood in our next episode.
Thank you.
You're welcome.